Warren's Occult Museum is, as you can probably tell from the second word of its name, a terrifying place not suitable for those of a weak disposition. Based in Monroe, Connecticut, the Warren Museum is a collection of supposedly haunted artifacts, apparently chronicling the careers of Ed and Lorraine Warren, two of the most famous paranormal investigators of all time. Among their collection, the actual Annabelle doll that the actual film Annabelle is based on. Yeah, that's the level of creepy we're talking about here. These are the most terrifying objects of the Warren Museum. Before we begin, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and Perron Family Music Box. The Perron Family Music Box appeared in the fictional film The Conjuring, but got its origins from Lorraine and Ed's real experiences involving the Perron family from Rhode Island. The Perrons lived in a farmhouse in Harrisville for 10 years, purchasing the 200-acre property to raise their 5 daughters. During their ownership, they endured many spooky and utterly terrifying experiences that would send shivers up your spine. In The Conjuring, the music box pops open and plays by itself. The Warrens are called in to rid the property of Bathsheba Sherman, a Satanist, demon, and witch who supposedly hung herself on the property in the 19th century. In the film, Ed and Lorraine were successful in removing her, but in real life, they were not. Initially, the parents didn't know who was haunting their house, but the Warrens identified Bathsheba as the likely culprit. Mrs. Carolyn Perron had been lying on the couch when she felt pain in her calf. When she looked at it, there was a mark and a pool of blood. It looked as if a sewing needle had been used to stab her leg. Bathsheba Sherman had supposedly killed an infant with a knitting needle through the base of the skull. Number 9. Toy Monkey. The toy monkey that features in the Warrens Occult Museum is also present in The Conjuring, Annabelle Comes Home, and The Conjuring 2. Ed Warren told reporters on a tour through the museum in The Conjuring that it's anything but safe. The toy monkey holds an accordion that is supposedly possessed by a ghost, spirit, or demon. If you touch it, it can stalk you before attempting to end your life. When Ed and Lorraine came into contact with the monkey, they blessed it and sealed it in their museum so that it couldn't harm anyone. After it was in The Conjuring, it also appeared prominently in Annabelle Comes Home. In this film, the Warrens hired a babysitter, Mary Ellen, to look after their daughter Judy. Mary brought a friend along with her, Daniela Rios, who had recently lost her father. When everyone's asleep, Daniela sneaks into the museum to try and contact her father. She opens Annabelle the doll's case, forgets to lock it, and a demon finds its way out. It then brings the toy monkey and other artifacts back into a powerful state. The monkey begins to screech and falls off the shelf, but Judy and Mary Ellen arrive at the museum just in time to stop her from becoming possessed. Once Annabelle is locked back in her case, the monkey toy becomes inanimate. Number 8. The Conjuring Mirror. Mirrors can be scary enough to look into, especially if you've just gotten out of bed and don't look your best. However, the Conjuring Mirror takes the spookiness up a notch by supposedly being used for rituals and summoning spirits. New Jersey man Steven Zellner originally owned the mirror and had attempted to conjure spirits from the reflection. He would sit in front of the mirror for hours in complete darkness except for a red light bulb, asking for his dead family members. For 2 weeks, Steven would carry out this routine, telling the glass to bring forth his deceased loved ones. Then, finally, faces would appear in the mirror. They were so twisted, distorted, and terrifying that he ended up in a mental institution. The mirror conjuring technique Steven used was called crystallomancy, which is when a spirit can appear in a shiny object. A mirror is standard, but glass, plates, and TV screens are supposedly useful as well. When Steven was admitted into the mental institution, his family called the Warrens into their home to take the mirror. Number 7. The Satanic Idol. The Satanic Idol in the Warrens Occult Museum looks a little bit spooky, but you would never believe what it's capable of, according to the Warren family. As the story goes, a man found the tall, strange-looking doll in a wooded area of Connecticut. When he found it, he felt as though all the strength and energy in his being had been sucked from his soul. He was filled with dread and fear and wanted to get out of the woods as quickly as possible. Leaving the horned, skinny doll behind, he came across an ominous-looking looking man in a black cloak. The man gave him directions for leaving the woods, and he was able to make it out unscathed. Lorraine Warren said it is one of the most paranormal artifacts she has ever come across. After collecting the doll and putting it in their basement, she recalls being in a withdrawn state for days, and even spoke about being able to levitate. The satanic idol is now displayed in the museum underneath a haunted painting collection. Number 6. Borley Rectory Brick. It might seem strange to see one single brick sitting on the shelf at the Warrens Occult Museum, but it's more than your average brick. It's a piece of history. The brick comes from what is thought to be England's most haunted house, Borley Rectory. As the legend goes, the Gothic-style home has been haunted since its construction for the parish rector of Borley and his family in 1862. A psychic researcher known as Harry Price visited the house and published 2 books on his findings. People let their imaginations run wild based on his findings, which is how the house got its reputation. The Society for Psychical Research rejected many of Harry Price's findings as imagined or fabricated. That doesn't stop people reporting sounds of footsteps, seeing phantom coaches, and being horrified by ghostly nuns. The house was damaged by fire in 1939 and was demolished in 1944, but several pieces of the house have ended up on display in many homes and museums, such as the Warrens Occult Museum. Number 5. The Wedding Dress. The real story behind the wedding dress in the Warrens Occult Museum is a little sketchy, but real or fabricated, that doesn't make seeing the wedding dress in person any less surreal or spooky. The wedding dress appears prominently in Annabelle Comes Home. It's thought that whoever wears it will end up murdering their fiancé. However, the real story is that no one knows whether the dress ever belonged to a bride or not. The story of the killer bride may have been made up for the movie. If you delve deeper into the official story, the one that's portrayed in the Warrens Museum, you'll find that the claims instead relate to the White Lady of Union Graveyard in Connecticut. According to local legends, a lady in a white dress has been seen periodically for decades in the Connecticut area. Some of the related sightings were even as recent as 2009, when Rod Vesey was driving home from work at 1 a.m. and felt a presence in his car. He looked behind him and saw a man in 1960s attire. When he peeked again, the man was gone. Number 4. The Shadow Doll. The Shadow Doll is a seemingly innocent toy, but what lies beneath that feathery black coat and behind those dark, evil eyes will terrify you. The Warrens state that it was used in satanic rituals and created using black magic with human and animal bones. As the story goes, if you take a photo of it and look into its eyes, the doll would appear in the dreams of that person. However, they were not so much dreams as they were nightmares. Supposedly, victims would become terrified of falling asleep or could even have heart attacks in their sleep. In later years, a couple purchased the Shadow Doll from an antique store and quickly learned how powerful it could be. Both the husband and wife experienced the same nightmares, and the husband woke with unexplainable scratches all over his neck and back. The doll eventually made its way into the Warrens Occult Museum, and it's available for people to view for themselves. Number 3. The Two Deaf Dolls. Doll collectors travel the world looking for unique dolls to add to their collection. So when a doll collector came across these 2 dolls with no ears, she thought nothing of adding them to her collection. However, they would prove to be almost deadly. Known as the witch dolls and sometimes the voodoo dolls, they look as creepy as they are. One has a noose around its head and the other one has black holes for eyes. But it's not their looks that'll scare you off, but what they can supposedly do. Once the doll collector added them to her collection, her son became sick with an illness that not even doctors could diagnose. He got weaker and weaker, and the dolls got more and more strange. They would keep turning up in odd places, and not even locking them in a box would stop them from making their way out of it. Once her son was on death's door, the collector contacted Ed and Lorraine Warren to help her. they noticed evilness in the air straight away. As soon as they took the dolls, the collector's son got better. The Warrens stored them in their museum with a protective ring around them to stop them from harming anyone. However, when a retired Navy commander and his wife picked the dolls up upon visiting the museum, they broke that protection. During the night, Ed and Lorraine heard noises and found several dolls in a circle and the two deaf dolls in the middle of it. That night, the Navy commander had an accident and swears he saw two dolls laughing at him. Number 2. The piano. While the storyline in The Conjuring for the organ may seem outlandish, it's not as far from the truth as you may think. In The Conjuring, Daniela sits down at the Occult Museum's piano, breaking the rule that says no touching. As soon as she begins to play, she feels the presence of someone sitting next to her playing too. That might make you scoff and think, yeah right, but the film producers may not have been off the mark. The Occult Museum does have an organ, which Ed Warren acquired when a reverend's house was cleaned out in Connecticut before it burned down. Little did Ed know at the time that the piano came with energy. At night, Ed would hear the piano playing in the museum and he would think someone had broken in. He would rush down to the room and find all the doors locked and everything secure. The music would then stop. This strange event happened a few times until a Catholic priest blessed the museum and each item, as he would do at least once per quarter. Number 1. Annabelle. In 1968, a student nurse received a cute Raggedy Ann doll as a gift. From the outside, it looked quite normal, but the doll started to do odd things, which unnerved the student and her roommate. Even though they tried to make light of the situation, they soon came to realize that she was malicious and evil. A psychic medium told the girls that the doll harbored a dead girl named Annabelle's spirit. They contacted Ed and Lorraine, who believed the doll was demonically possessed. They took it from the girls and locked it in a glass box in their museum. The story of Annabelle is known far and wide, for it's retold in The Conjuring, The Conjuring 2, and the Annabelle movies. In The Conjuring, Annabelle is an antique-looking porcelain doll that does look a bit spooky. However, film directors chose a scarier-looking doll for the purpose of fear. In real life, Annabelle is a happy-looking Raggedy Ann toy. Lorraine says it's not the doll's looks that make it scary, but what's inside it. And it's certainly not one you'd put a bow around and gift